Don't miss the inaugural All-American Cup Team Tennis Tournament, presented by Thomas J. Henry, at the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas, November 11 through 13. The All-American Cup features 10 top men's U.S. players competing on 2 teams, East versus West, each captained by the greatest tennis doubles team of all time, Mike and Bob Bryan. You don't want to miss this. Brother versus brother, East versus West, best versus best. Tickets on sale now at allamericantenniscup.com.
All right, Pickle, let's do some headlines from across the state of Texas. And we've got some news in the college football ranks to start. Scheduling news. We all love scheduling news. Sam Houston and Texas State are going to play for the first time since 2011. It's an old Southland Conference rivalry that will be renewed September 28th, 2024. They will play at NRG Stadium in Houston. It was first reported by our friends at catfans.com, confirmed by our own Ishmael Johnson. They will play September 28th, 2024. It will be the first time that they've played since Texas State transitioned from FCS. And yeah, it'll be the 93rd overall meeting between the two. The series dates back to 1915. I can't help but feel like this is at least part of this is Sam Houston wanting to get a rivalry game back on the schedule, knowing that the Battle of the Piney Woods is at least dormant for now.
Yeah, I love this
because they're moving up to FBS. Stephen F. Austin staying in FCS. I can't help but feel like that's at least part of this, but also just like great, awesome. I think rivalries are cool.
Oh yeah, no, this rules, and this is fun too from like an us perspective for a lot of different reasons, but especially because I think if you want to, unless Texas State takes a massive step forward like very quickly under G.J. Kinney, which is definitely not out of the realm of possibilities, I think that these two schools will be heavily competing for the same type of recruits. And that's what always makes a really fun rivalry in my mind is two teams that like it's big on the field, but it's even bigger off the field.
Yes, I totally agree with that. So very exciting there as they are going to have a new rivalry.
I love that.
A renewed rivalry between Sam Houston and Texas State coming in 2024. On to the
transfer portal.
And there's a couple of big pieces of transfer portal news. One of them is no good for the reigning national runners-up, the TCU Horned Frogs. Jordan Hudson is entering the transfer portal, their star wide receiver. He was the highest-rated signee in the class of 2022. The Garland product is entering the transfer portal. He was number 17 in our DCTF Hot 100. He was a guy who 14 catches, 174 yards, 3 touchdowns in 2022. What I think is interesting is that this comes after, I believe, the spring game. So he goes through spring ball, and then he enters the transfer portal. Very interested to see where he ends up landing there. One thing to keep an eye on is that when he committed to TCU, the guy who was in charge of functionally the lead recruiter for him was Rashad Samples, who is now the wide receivers coach at Arizona State. So that could be somewhere to keep an eye on. He also spent some time at Oklahoma and at SMU. So he was also in the mix for LSU and Miami at the time, but things certainly can change. Jordan Hudson has entered the transfer portal. He could also come back to TCU. Entering the transfer portal does not mean you're transferring, but he is eligible to transfer now as he has entered the transfer portal. That is an outgoing potentially. Let's talk about a couple of incoming. One of them on the Texas Longhorns, Trill Carter, the all Big Ten defensive end from Minnesota, has transferred to Texas. He is a Georgia native. He was a Big Ten honorable mention. He had 19 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 1.5 sacks. He has started 24 games at Minnesota over the past 2 seasons. He is a guy who is known as a big run stuffer, 6'2", 300 pounds. And this feels like a really important get here for Texas to shore up the middle of that defensive line, considering Keandre Coburn and Mora Ojomo are gone. They've still got guys like Tavondre Sweat, but it will be very interesting to see where he ends up or how he fits in. But Minnesota's Trill Carter has transferred to Texas. Baylor also picks up a Texas a product, kind of roundabout gets a guy from the University of Texas. Byron Vaughns Byron Vaughns, you may remember as a guy who came out of Fort Worth Eastern Hills in the 2018 recruiting cycle. He played at Texas for 3 seasons, played in 10 games over 3 seasons, transferred to Utah State. He was excellent at Utah State last year. He had 4 sacks, 10.5 tackles for loss. He was the defensive MVP of the Mountain West championship game, actually. He has entered the transfer portal, and he has landed at Baylor to play for Dave Aranda and his defense. That feels really important to get more kind of shoring up that defensive line, which does have some pieces to they need a pass rusher in the worst way, and a guy who can make an instant impact. Here's a guy, he's a senior, so he's got that experience, and a guy that kind of a hired gun here to shore up that pass rush there for Baylor, as they have brought in Byron Vaughns, the former Longhorn and Utah State defensive end, as part of their fold now. Okay.
This is a fantastic graphic headline, everything.
So, our friend Corey Hogue, the non-FBS insider here for Dave Campbell's Texas Football. And in our meeting on Monday, he was just going nuts over just his message board nonsense that's going on about Lamar. So Lamar down there in Beaumont, there had been this message board stuff basically about, Lamar is going to discontinue football. They're going to discontinue football. This comes from a report from Channel 6, KFDM in Beaumont, about the cost of the Cardinals football program. That they talk about, that they talk to 2 students. The 2 students say, hey, you know what? We have to pay this athletic fee of $11 basically per semester credit hour. And that just feels like it's a waste. We shouldn't be doing that. They're frustrated because Lamar hasn't been all that good anywhere. So then somehow that turns into Facebook running wild. Oh my gosh, Lamar's going to discontinue football. And as a result, Corey Hogue has to get on the phone and talk to people at Lamar, or I shouldn't say at Lamar, sources close to the situation. Okay? I'm reading between the lines. I haven't asked Corey who his source is. I'm going to guess it's somebody at Lamar. Lamar has no plans to discontinue its football program.
Period.
The football program's bottom line could be in the black if they start winning games and give the fan base a reason to attend.
Yep.
That's it. So if you're reading something on the internet that says, oh, man, Lamar's going to quit football, our Corey Hogue is confirming that no, there are no plans to discontinue the Lamar football program.
Well, and it's funny because from someone who, 1, worked at a student TV station and 2, worked in an athletic department for 4 years, that is a normal story that they do every single year through student media most of the time. It's, hey, how do you feel about the fees that you're having to pay and everything that gets brought up, especially at that kind of stuff. I was even at North Texas when we went through a whole process of a student vote to increase the amount. This is a yearly thing when the revenue reports comes out that you cannot just run with because every single college campus does it.
Anyway, there's
so funny.
There's some news.
Those stinking message boards.
Yes, there's some news. Okay, so elsewhere, let's go to the high school ranks, and unfortunately, some sad news to report. This came down last week. Cale Steed at PressPassSports.com had it first. Chris Ketting has retired at Canadian. He's been there for 13 seasons there as the head coach at Canadian. He is a whopping 163-25 in his 13 seasons, 3 state championships in 2 different classifications. They went back-to-back in 2A Division I, 2014, 2015, then they won again in 3A in 2020. I'll always remember that 2015 Canadian team, that Air Canada team, which was crazy good. And yeah, so he's retiring after 13 seasons. Unfortunately, one of the, I think a big reason why, he cited he put out a press release and he cited a desire to spend more time with his family. He's been battling cognitive health issues, and has been dealing with that, which is just terrible to hear. We certainly wish him nothing but the best there at Canadian. He was unbelievable. He's been a coach for 31 years. All of it up there, and almost all of it up there in the Panhandle.
Just a real nice
Hereford.
guy too.
Great dude. He was a former THS. He was a former big. I don't know what his title ended up being at the THSCA, but
he was heavily involved.
He was heavily involved with the THSCA.
Well respected.
It's of course he led them to great heights. They every December you could set your watch by Canadian versus Gunner in the semifinal. He has been a remarkable head coach, and certainly we wish him the very best moving forward. But Chris Ketting has retired there at Canadian, which is, wish him all the best. It's a sad situation there with him battling cognitive health issues. So keep an eye on what's going on at Canadian. We'll bring you the very latest. Elsewhere, other headlines from across the state. This one kind of came out of nowhere. I'll be honest. I got a tip about this last week. Or late last week, and I texted Step, and I was like, hey, have you heard anything about this? And then he chased it down. West Rusk is open. Nick Harrison is leaving to join the staff at Bullard Brookhill. He has been the head coach there at West Rusk for the last 4 seasons, going 37-12. They've been really, really good. He was the offensive coordinator back he was their offensive coordinator, got promoted at the age of 29 back in 2019. He was spectacular there, and now he is going to move on to the next level. But again, been very successful, 23-4 in the last 2 seasons, a regional semifinalist in 3A Division II. But West Rusk is open as Nick Harrison leaving for the staff at Bullard Brookhill. So certainly a very interesting move there. Hewitt Midway defensive coordinator Karen Johnson is going to be the next head coach at Waco University. We talked about Kent Laster taking the job at Denton Braswell. They've moved very quickly to hire Hewitt Midway's defensive coordinator Karen Johnson. You may remember David Smoke of 365 Sports, was our buddy there, was the first to report this. He played college ball there at Baylor. He got his career cut short by injury, went into the coaching world, and has been on staff at Katy Maid Creek, Magnolia, and then Waco Connolly, and most recently there at Hewitt Midway as their defensive coordinator. But he will be taking over at Waco U as Karen Johnson is going to be the next head coach at Waco University. 2 more headlines. Frisco offensive coordinator Blake Yancey is going to be the next head coach there at Whitewright out there at 2A level. Blake Yancey has been the offensive coordinator there at Frisco for the last 9 seasons. Been the last offensive coordinator for the last 9 seasons for Frisco. One thing I think is really interesting is, so Frisco runs the wing T. Blake Yancey has been really integral in kind of revolutionizing that Frisco wing T, and basically, I hate to say it, but opening it up and throwing the ball a bit more and making it really dangerous. They have had one of the most improved offenses over the past couple of years, thanks in large part to the coaching styles of Coach Yancey. And so Blake Yancey going to be the next head coach at Whitewright, the Frisco offensive coordinator, getting a head coaching job. Finally, Pickle, this weekend,
let's go.
We had 7-on-7. We had our first state 7-on-7 qualifying tournament there in Melissa, and 2 teams have been qualified. DeSoto, they beat Frisco Reedy in the state qualifying round.
Last year's champions.
Yep. Trying to go back-to-back after winning state 7-on-7 last year at the Division I level. And Midlothian Heritage also qualifies. They beat Arlington Lamar in the state qualifying round. So our first 2 tickets punched to College Station. Midlothian Heritage and DeSoto will be playing at state 7-on-7 coming up here in June in College Station, and we will have complete coverage on TexasFootball.com. Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.